Today, I'm going to be doing my Costco chicken challenge, where I'm going to be making a high protein breakfast, lunch, and dinner, all from Costco rotisserie chickens. Because I've been trying to get more protein in my life, and Costco rotisserie chickens, they're cheap, they're easy, and when you compare them to something like beef and pork, chicken just has less cholesterol, so it's a little bit healthier. And on top of that, with beef prices being so sky high these days, what better time than now to work on expanding the number of chicken recipes I know. Okay, so the first step in all of this is to start shredding our chicken. So I'm gonna go ahead and get working on that. One thing, so the recipes that we are going to be making during this Costco chicken challenge are, the breakfast is gonna be a chicken burrito, the lunch is going to be a chicken salad, and then the dinner will be a chicken pot pie. So I think shredding the chicken is by far the most time-consuming process in all of these recipes. So if anyone has any tips or tricks for how to shred chicken quickly, definitely let me know. I was talking with my brother and he showed me this chicken shredder that you can buy on Amazon, which is like this kind of, in my opinion, strange gadget that is circular, and then you put the chicken in between it and twist it. I'm not really convinced that would make shredding the chicken go any faster, but if anyone's ever tried it, let me know if it's worthwhile. So one other thing that I was thinking about is that if you want to make this a little healthier, you could also remove the skin before shredding the chicken. I bought these chickens yesterday, so I put them in the refrigerator overnight, so makes it a little bit harder to shred it than if they were fresh, but definitely something you could consider. The skin, I think, would come right off if you bought them hot and did it the same day. The first recipe in this Rotisserie Roundup, or our Costco Rotisserie Chicken Challenge, is a California breakfast burrito. And I know that chicken may not be sort of a traditional choice for breakfast, but why shouldn't it be? And I mean, with this rotisserie chicken, the great thing about it is that I feel like it has so much more flavor than a chicken breast, because it has some of the light meat, it has some of the dark meat, has a little bit of the skin, so it has so much flavor. And so I really see no reason why chicken can't be a breakfast food. And when you put it in a burrito and it has all this great vegetables and fiber and things like that, I think it will turn out really well. So the first step in this recipe here is I'm just gonna go ahead and get all of our vegetables and things prepped. So I'm just doing a red pepper. You could definitely do a green pepper. If that's all you have, I'm sure that would be great too. And then we also are going to have some onions and garlic. And the really exciting things about these onions is that these are actually from my garden. This was the first year that I grew onions, and look at how great they turned out. I'm so pumped about that. I will definitely be growing them again next year. Okay, and when cutting these up, I'm just gonna make sure they're bite-sized. I don't like my breakfast burrito to have too many large chunks. So just want to make sure they get to be about the right size. And the other things that are going in this breakfast burrito, they're of course going to have eggs. This burrito recipe doesn't have potatoes, which I feel like potatoes are one of those things, you either love them in a breakfast burrito or you hate them in a breakfast burrito. I personally love them. My husband is not a fan of them, so we're just doing them without potatoes this time, but we'll see how they turn out. The other breakfast recipe that I was considering doing, instead of this breakfast burritos, where there was a chicken breakfast enchilada, which I thought sounded so good, but I got outvoted by my family. They all love breakfast burritos, so that's why we're going with a breakfast burrito. But let me know in the comments if you've ever had a breakfast enchilada. I think that sounds really good. But maybe we'll make that at some point if enough people want to see that. I still can't get over that I grew these in my garden, and I could have bought this in the store. And the crazy thing is too, I feel like I said, I've never grown onions before, but they were so easy. I mean, I had to start them in February, but then they pretty much just did everything on their own. Didn't have any diseases like all my tomato plants or potatoes or anything like that. They were just easy from the get-go. So definitely really excited to see how those turned out. Oh, and for the onion cutting, I almost forgot. I am going to be trying this gadget that my brother bought on Amazon. He loves kitchen gadgets. I'm not really a fan because I feel like they just clog up the kitchen, and sometimes don't have a lot of utility or don't really live up to the promise of what they sell you on, but I'm giving it a go for him. So this is supposed to be supposed to help you with cutting onions. Not 100% sure how it works, but we're going to give it a go. All right, works okay. I can see the utility in it, like if you're worried about like your kids possibly like getting really close and cutting their finger. And it probably is one of those things that takes a little bit of getting used to. I'm not sure it's something we honestly really need. You know, it's like fixing a problem we don't have, but I mean, it definitely works. Definitely wouldn't cut my finger if I did it, so. The other really exciting thing is I grew garlic for the first time as well. So this is actually garlic from my garden as well. So also very exciting. But one of the great things about breakfast burritos that I really like is that they're so easy to make ahead and then freeze if you want to do that. So you can make a huge batch, freeze them, and then you could have breakfasts for a week, 2 weeks, a really long time, depending on how many you make. So with these breakfast burritos, you could definitely do that as well. They do call for things like avocado and tomato and things like that. So if you were going to freeze them, I would not put the tomato in prior to freezing, since tomatoes just like don't freeze very well. But you could always just make the burrito and then freeze it. And then once you're ready to eat it, you could then put the tomato in prior to eating it. So you could kind of do it that way as well. One kitchen gadget that's definitely worth the investment. Okay, and then the last thing here is, this doesn't need to be cooked, but I'm just gonna chop the avocado up now as well, so it's ready to go when we're assembling the burritos. Just get all of this prep stuff out of the way at the beginning. And with the avocado, you can cut it in a number of different ways. I personally like doing long strips. And you could definitely peel the avocado and then cut it if you wanted it to be a little bit nicer, more visually pleasing chunks. Honestly, I feel like once you put it in burrito, it all gets squished anyway, so I just kind of go for whatever's easiest. And with these breakfast burritos, it's so flexible. So like if you want twice as much avocado, you could do that. If you wanted to throw mushrooms in this vegetable mix, you could do that. If you don't like onions, you could take them out. Really, sort of any sort of veg that you enjoy can go in this breakfast burrito. The last part of my prep is just to put all of the eggs and a little bit of milk or cream in a bowl and whip those up. So I'm just going to do that real quick, and then we'll start cooking all of this. Okay, so the recipe that I'm doing says it makes about 4 burritos, and I'm just going to stick with that this time around. So it calls for 8 eggs. Again, if you want to double this, triple it, super easy to scale a breakfast burrito recipe. All right, that's my 8 eggs. And then this recipe calls for adding, I think, 1/3 of a cup of half and half. If you only have milk, that's fine. Honestly, I feel like it doesn't really matter what type of milk or what type of dairy you add to your eggs. It does make them a little lighter and fluffier, so I'm just going to estimate here, because again, it does not have to be perfect. There we go. A little bit extra for good measure. The other thing that you could do, since we're going to be scrambling these, if you wanted to make this even higher protein, you could put a little cottage cheese in here as well. I've done that before, and honestly, I really like how that makes scrambled eggs turn out. It does make them a little tangy, but I personally really enjoy that. I'm a lover of cottage cheese, so any way I can work that into breakfast, I definitely like to do that. So that's an option if you're trying to get more protein in your diet as well. But the good news about these burritos is they have eggs, they have chicken, so they're already very high in protein. Okay, those are all scrambled, so I have everything prepped, so I'm going to move over to start cooking our vegetables. Okay, so I have my extra virgin olive oil in the pan. I have it over about medium-high heat, just waiting for the pan to get a little bit warmer, and then I'm going to add my onion and my pepper. So while these onions and pepper cook, I thought about scrambling my eggs on a second burner just to be super efficient, 2 birds, 1 stone, so doing them at the same time. But I decided I'm just gonna first cook these vegetables and then I'm going to cook the eggs in the same pan, so that way I only get 1 pan dirty. You really could do it either way, depends on what your preference is. Do you want this to be faster or do you want to do fewer dishes? So today mine is fewer dishes. Sometimes it would probably be just doing it faster, but that's what we're gonna do today. And then I'm just gonna salt these as well. I personally find that whenever doing sort of a breakfast food with eggs and things like that, I like to make sure that my vegetables are well salted because I feel like that really helps bring out their flavor amidst all of the egg and everything else going on in the breakfast food. So in this case, the burritos. Okay, so my vegetables have gotten to the point where they're soft but not mushy. You can really cook these for however long you like. If you like them a little softer, you can cook them longer. If you like them a little firmer, cook them a little bit less time. It's all about personal preference here. But since they're probably about 30 seconds to a minute out from where I like them done, I'm going to go ahead and add my garlic now, and then I'm going to add the spinach to wilt that as well. This recipe actually calls for just putting the raw spinach in the burrito, which you totally could do. I just prefer to have mine cooked with the vegetables. So again, it's up to your personal preference. I always love adding spinach to eggs and breakfast stuff because I feel like it's such an easy way to get all of your greens in. I feel like spinach just goes so well with eggs and breakfast food in general, so I just chuck a good handful in. All right, that looks great. So I'm just gonna transfer this to a plate and then I'm gonna cook those eggs. Hi, Quickie, excuse me. And adding that garlic just makes it smell so fragrant, so good. Definitely getting very excited for these breakfast burritos. All right, and now I have my eggs that I scrambled earlier. One thing I did remember, I forgot to add salt, so I just went ahead and added the salt to this mixture real quick. And now I'm gonna turn this on to a low heat. It does feel pretty hot, so the one thing you could do is I didn't wipe out the pan before I started scrambling these eggs. You could definitely do that, probably a good idea. I think it turns out fine not doing that, but just a heads up if you want your eggs to look really nice. All right, so I have all of my ingredients prepped and ready. We have our vegetables cooked, we have our eggs cooked, we have our avocado, we have our chicken, we have cheddar cheese. One thing to note here, this recipe that I'm following also calls for Monterey Jack, but I don't have that. I think it'd be really nice to add 2 different types of cheeses. It would probably give a good flavor, but if that's not something you have, that's totally fine. So I'm just gonna roll with it and I think it'll be great. So I'm gonna go ahead and start assembling the burritos. So you can use really any tortilla that you like. My personal favorite is this brand, this Extreme Wellness. And the reason that I like it is because it has tons of fiber in it. So fiber is always something that I really struggle with getting in my diet. So if I can get it other ways, okay, no. If I can get it other ways, I always try to do that as well. So the one downside of these tortillas is that they are kind of fragile. So they're not very robust. So it is a little bit harder to make a burrito out of them. You have to be gentle with them, but I'm gonna start by putting, the chicken in my burrito. And you can definitely follow the recipe here to decide how much of each ingredient to put in, but I think it kind of makes sense just to do what you like in your burrito. Like if you like it really chickeny, if you don't like it chickeny, totally up to you. And the one thing with burritos that I can never do right, even though I tell myself every time, is don't put too much filling in because then it makes it hard to roll and then it's overstuffed. And every time I think I'm doing a good job, every time I end up, oops, with too much filling. And then the last thing is I have some pico de gallo that I've made from tomatoes in my garden. So I'm going to add that to my burrito as well. If you just have a tomato, you can cut that up and add that too. That would be great. And again, if you're freezing these burritos, I would just wait to add this until after you thaw them out, since tomatoes don't really freeze well. All right, and I'm thinking I probably have way too much in this yet again. But I'm gonna try my best to roll this. Okay, and one trick if you want them to seal a little bit better, sometimes if you get them a little bit wet, that helps form a seal here, but I'm not gonna bother with that. But all right, there we have it. That is our chicken burrito. I feel like that actually turned out not half bad. I'm gonna go ahead and do the other three here real quick. All right, so I finished rolling all of my burritos out. I actually got 5 instead of 4, which is what the recipe said I was gonna get. And I would have even been able to get 6, but I ran out of tortilla shells, but that's totally okay. So then I had a little bit of leftover veggies and scrambled eggs and all that kind of thing, which actually worked out really well since my dog Fuji is on a bland diet right now, so I just gave the scrambled eggs to her. But I'm gonna go ahead and give this a try. And one thing to note, the recipe does also recommend adding hot sauce here as well, but I just want to try it without it. I'm sure it would be great with it, but we'll see. That is actually so good. I love the rotisserie chicken. It has that really nice sort of depth of flavor. It's not just bland like a normal chicken breast. And then combined with the eggs and the creaminess of the avocado, and then the little bit of cheese that comes through there as well. It's such a well-balanced bite. It hits like all of those notes that you look for in a breakfast. So would definitely recommend making these. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Stay tuned for next week where we're gonna be doing lunch. We're gonna be doing a chicken salad, and we'll see you in the next one.